Hey, Bison Band, welcome to the final installment of the Chrome Lab composition project. We're going to be making some adjustments to our composition that will make it ready to present and share, but more on that later. For this assignment, we are going to be producing an adjusted harmony that will better balance and complement the other parts of melody, bass, and rhythm of our composition. We will adjust the instruments, both tonal and rhythm. We will make any final changes to our Chrome Lab composition product because you may find that once you've made some adjustments in this specific assignment, you may want to make some tweaks to your melody or perhaps to the style of bass line that you're using or perhaps to the style of percussion part that you're using. And you can do that as a part of this project, but it is not necessarily required if you like the final result. Now, the link that you're going to create to this and that you're going to submit in the final assignment will include your finalized melody, your adjusted harmony, which you'll do in this assignment, your finalized bass line, your finalized rhythm part, and your adjusted instruments, which again we will do in this assignment. Instructions to submit this assignment are down below, how to take the link and save it for yourself, as well as submit it to Google Classroom. Now, a couple different learning goals here. We're going to be identifying and creating different harmony patterns. We're going to match a harmony pattern to our composition that complements the other parts. We're going to create balance, and we'll talk about that in a second, in your song through the adjustment of your harmony. And then we're going to reinforce that balance in your song through adjustment of the instrument sounds in Chrome Lab Song Maker. Now, balance, the relative volume level of two or more instruments, voices, or sounds would be one. Another definition would be the relative strength of sounds produced by various sections of an ensemble. An ensemble could include a band, like us, for example. Functionally, balance is a really critical factor for any ensemble band in creating the proper blend of sounds in a piece of music. Balance does not necessarily mean that all the instruments will be playing at the same volume, and in many cases, it means that parts will be featured, or, for example, the melody will be slightly louder than the others so that those parts are more clearly heard, while other parts like the harmony and the bass, the rhythm may play a more supporting role. Now, information for this can be conveyed by the conductor, which would be me in this case, in the way that I am moving my baton, which is a conducting device that I have, or by using my hands and arms if I am not using my baton for conducting. Now, where are we going to start today? The first place that we're going to start is on the link that was left over that you submitted from your rhythm and tempo project. And with this, which I'll switch over to in a second, we're going to adjust the instruments to find instruments that create that balance where parts are able to be heard. You can hear the melody clearly, and then in a supporting role, you can hear your harmony, your bass, and then the rhythm without either the harmony, bass, or rhythm covering up what you're hearing for the melody. Now, we have some different options, and we're going to start by adjusting the tonal instruments first. We have what's called piano, which is a lot of us started the assignment there. I like that for composing. Woodwind, which is going to sound like flutes. Strings, which will sound like plucked violins, violas, or cellos, basses. A marimba, which is a mallet percussion instrument. And synth, which is going to be an electronic instrument. So let's listen to my link from my melody, or sorry, my rhythm and tempo project with the different tonal instruments. So in this case, I have piano, which is where I started. Let's give this a listen to start. So I'll just play a couple measures of each. The next one is going to be the strings. And again, these are going to be plucked string sounds. And And then the next one is going to be woodwind sounds. Again, this is a little picture of a flute there. So it's going to be more of a flute sound to this. With a little bit of clarinet thrown in there too. The next one here is going to be the synthesizer. Again, these are going to be an electronic instrument sound. And then finally, we have the marimba, which is the mallet percussion instrument. I'll go ahead and play this for you. Now, in my listening to this, as I was doing creating my project here, I decided that I thought that the marimba was the best, most balanced sound. And when I listen to it, I can hear the melody clearly. I can hear the lowest bass notes. And then in the middle, I can hear the harmony notes providing the chords in the center of my song. Now, I do hear right now that when I'm using the marimba, that the kit sounds here, my percussion sounds, just aren't in balance anymore, and they're a little bit too loud for this. So that's why the second step of my where do I start is to adjust the instruments for rhythm as well. Now, options for this are electronic, kit, conga, and blocks. So we'll go through and we'll try these different rhythm sounds to see which one sounds best with the marimba. So the kit is going to be a combination of snare drum and bass drum. And again, I'll play this for you. And then the next one is conga, which is two pitched drum sounds. Next is going to be the electronic drums. This will also be similar to a snare drum and a bass drum. And then finally, we have the blocks, which are like pitched wood blocks, a high and a low sound. Now, as I was listening to all of these and completing my project, the one that I felt balanced the best was the blocks. So as I listen to this, I can hear, again, the melody, the harmony, the bass in balance like I did when I was first adjusting the tonal instruments. But now I can also hear that the percussion part is at, or the rhythm part is at a level where it supports those, but it doesn't cover those sounds up. So again, I'll play this again, and you should be able to hear all of the parts together, the melody most present, and the rhythm, bass, and harmony supporting it. So I have decided on my instruments. Where am I going to go next? So I'm going to begin by opening up 3 different browser tabs that will all look like this. So I can go to Save, Copy Link, and then I'm going to open up 3 more browser tabs that look exactly like this. I'm also going to take that link and I'm going to go ahead and put it into my Google Doc and save it so that I don't lose this new version that has my adjusted instruments. Now, once I've done that, we're going to be adjusting the harmony part of our composition, and we're going to do 3 different patterns for this that I'll present to you below. The idea here is to do a comparison so that you can hear what your song would sound like with these different harmony patterns to find the one that best complements your song, the one that best balances your song so that you can hear all of the parts with, again, the melody standing out the most, and that the harmony part isn't matching up with any of these exactly, which doesn't let the harmony part do its job of supporting without covering. So moving down here, I created a harmony pattern menu for you. The most efficient way to create each of these harmony patterns is to start with the original, which again has the blocks drawn all the way across each measure. And what we're going to do is we're going to delete or clear out blocks to create the patterns below. I think that's the fastest way to do this and ensures that we keep the same chords in each measure because we don't want to change those. But we do want to change the way that the notes of each chord are presented and played. Now, you'll see some screenshots below of these. The notes that you use will be different than the notes that I'm using, but the pattern is what you're looking for. How do you create the pattern with the notes that you have? So again, it's going to be a sample pattern, but your notes may be different. Keep in mind that for these, the rhythms in most cases, I do want to be the same, with an exception that I'll share. For a 5/7 chord, I did put a little note here. For 5/7 chords, you are going to use the green and light green at the same time in these patterns. So any 5/7 chords that you have, you are going to use both light green and dark green at the same time for these. Now, steps for this. You're going to open your 3 browser tabs like we talked about. You're going to select 3 of the patterns from the list below. And then for each of your 3 patterns, you're going to erase the blocks in your original harmony until each chord matches the pattern that you see below. Again, the notes will be different, perhaps, than my examples, but the pattern should be what's consistent. And then listen to and compare each of your 3 versions, listening for these 2 criteria. All parts are properly balanced and can be heard clearly, and the new harmony part complements all the parts of our song without covering up or matching any of them. Now, you're going to then submit the one that you like the best in here. Of course, I'll talk to you about the last one here before submitting, but you're going to submit that as the final assignment link. Now, for reference, my original harmony, I took a screenshot that takes out the melody and the bass and the rhythm. This is just my harmony, and the chord order is 1, 4, 5, 1 for me. Again, yours may be different. My first harmony pattern is called the block chord rhythm. And characteristics for this are all chord tones are played simultaneously. So you can see that they're stacked. So all chord tones were played at the same time. And we're going to create a rhythm by making gaps or rests in the chords in ChromeLab Song Maker. So what you can see is I have the first block filled in, and then I have a gap in blocks 2 and 3. I have blocks 4 and 5 filled in. I have a gap or rest in block 6, and then I filled in 7 and 8. And I did this for all of the harmony chords all the way across. I kept the same rhythm, and I want you to do this as well. You can use the rhythm that I have here, or you could potentially create your own as I suggest in the modification. This is what the block chord accompaniment is going to sound like. So by creating these gaps, you're allowing other parts to come through and be more present and shine. And you're going to hear that in different ways throughout all of these different harmony pattern examples. Next is called broken block chords. And for this, you're going to notice that the characteristics start with the lowest note of each chord. And then that occurs in blocks 1 and 5. And then the next 2 highest notes, the middle and the highest of each chord, fill in blocks 3 and 4, along with 7 and 8. So you only hear the middle and the highest note at the same time, and the lowest note of each chord is heard separately. So let's listen to what that sounds like. It's going to be similar to the first example that I played for you, but it's going to have its own character. I'm going to play that one more time because it got off to a little slow start there. Now, the next examples that I have for you are called arpeggios. And arpeggios are a pattern of notes that go from the lowest to the middle to the highest to the middle. And the first example of this I call a single arpeggio. And for the single arpeggio, the characteristics, it follows the arpeggio low, middle, high, middle, and it does it for 2 blocks at a time. So lowest note is for 2 blocks, middle note is for 2 blocks, highest note is for 2 blocks, middle note is for 2 blocks, and then you begin your next chord in the next measure. Now, use the order of notes as they are built in each measure, but the rhythm, again, will be the same throughout all of these. It's just the notes that will be different depending on which chord you have in each measure. So let's listen to an arpeggio example, which is right here. And what you're going to notice is example. Now, the next version of our arpeggio pattern is a double arpeggio. So the characteristics of this one are that note order will follow the same as the single arpeggio in pattern 3, but each arpeggio will happen twice in a measure, meaning that each one will take up 1 block in this pattern. And this pattern will sound a little bit faster than pattern 3 because the notes are shorter in length. And again, here's our double arpeggio. I'm going to go back and play this one more time. Now, if you like the idea of having some of your notes played at the same time, but you like the overall sound of the arpeggio, my next pattern might be the perfect one for you. It is called a pyramid arpeggio. And for the pyramid arpeggio, it's a variation on pattern for the double arpeggio, and it features overlaps of the harmony notes. So you're going to recreate this shape with exactly the same gaps as you see here, but again, the notes that you're using for this may be different than mine if you have different chords, which you probably do. And here is our pyramid arpeggio. So this one provides a little bit of a thicker texture to it because you have those notes occurring at the same times. Now, another pattern is called Alberti, and the Alberti pattern is a chord that is broken up and it goes from your lowest note to the highest note to the middle note to the highest note. So low, high, middle, high. And a single Alberti is harmony pattern number 6. For this, just like your single arpeggio, each chord tone will be 2 blocks long for this. And just like we had a double version of the arpeggio, I also created for you a double version of the Alberti, which is pattern number 7. It's going to follow the same pattern as the single Alberti, which is low, high, middle, high. But for the double Alberti, each block will only take up 1 beat for this, or 1 block, or each note's going to be 1 block long is what I should say. So it also, just like the double arpeggio, it's going to sound a little faster without even changing the tempo because your notes are moving more quickly. Now, I have left one option open. And again, because you're going to be creating three of these to compare together, I will leave it open if you would like to create one. If you have something in mind that you would like to try and hear what it sounds like as one of yours, you could create your own accompaniment pattern. And so the way I say this is if you would like to create your own harmony pattern for one of your three different harmony pattern examples, you are welcome to do so. Make sure you discuss and share your idea with Mr. Luddington, me, for approval and feedback. And that's going to go for all three of these. Before you submit your link, I'm going to want to hear all three that you made and discuss it with you before you hit send. So I am going to need to see all three of yours before you submit your final link, and we can do that in class. Now, scrolling down here, this project, because it is the finished version of this, I've doubled the point values for each phrase because there is more going on here. So overall, grading is 40 points total for this, for a phrase that includes melody, harmony, which you've revised for this, bass, and rhythm that follows the guidelines from all of our previous assignments. And of course, you're going to submit that in Google Classroom, and you're going to hold on to that link in your Google Doc where you've been storing all of your links thus far. Now, in terms of which pattern did I choose, well, I don't want to share with you yet because I don't want to affect your own decision process. I want the harmony pattern that you choose after you've created your three to be based on your listening and the way that you hear the balance.